It all started with a blender. Or maybe a laugh. Something normal. Something harmless. Something that, on any other street, wouldn't trigger a full-blown standoff with a pistol-waving HOA president and an off-duty federal SWAT officer holding back a K9 by the collar. But this was our street. And this was Karen. That morning my old buddy Marcus dropped by. We were making chili. That's it. A weekend tradition ever since I moved into the old ranch-style house on the edge of Redstone Oaks. Nothing fancy. Just garlic, peppers, music on the patio, and two friends catching up over cast iron and coals. Marcus had brought Thor, his retired K9 partner, a Belgian Malinois with enough discipline to walk past a T-bone steak if ordered to. Thor lay under the table while we chopped onions. Marcus laughed so hard at something I said he nearly spilled the beer. Music was low, nothing louder than conversation. Then came the bang. Not from us. From her. Karen. She stormed across her lawn like a one-woman militia. Flip-flops slapping concrete. Hair in curlers. Rage in full bloom. And tucked into the waistband of her leopard print leggings? A shiny silver handgun. I didn't see the gun at first. I saw her mouth moving. Finger pointing. Yelling about noise ordinances, disrespect, and unauthorized gatherings. I reminded her again that my house wasn't part of her HOA, that her rules didn't apply. That I'd filed a restraining order warning her to stay 20 feet off my lawn. But today she wasn't just screaming. She pulled it out. Right there. Mid-rant. Like she meant business. The moment that weapon left her waistband, everything stopped. Marcus stood slowly, calmly, like flipping a switch. One moment he was laughing about beans. The next he was pure training. Eyes locked. Shoulders squared. His voice went cold. "Put it down," he said. "Now." Karen laughed. Laughed. Said it was just for show. Said she was within her rights, and that we were threatening the sanctity of the neighborhood. Marcus didn't flinch. "You're pointing a firearm across property lines. That's a felony." She didn't listen. That's the thing about power-hungry people. They mistake fear for respect. She stepped forward. One step too far. That's when Thor moved. Not an attack. Not even a bark. Just a subtle trained shift between her and Marcus. Calm. Controlled. Deadly still. And terrifying. Karen's hand shook. She looked down. Realized what she was actually holding. What she'd done. Then the sirens. Not one. Not two. 4 cruisers tore into the street less than 90 seconds after the first 911 ping went through. I didn't even know Marcus had tapped his watch. Apparently, he'd activated a silent distress signal before she even drew the weapon. The lead cruiser screeched to a halt, and out stepped Officer Daly, young, sharp, and very familiar with Marcus. "Captain Rhodes." Daly blinked. "You okay?" "Fine," Marcus replied. "But she's not." Karen stammered something about her rights and neighborhood safety and being provoked. But the moment she raised her voice, every cop on that cul-de-sac tightened up. They knew who Marcus was. Knew what he'd seen. What he'd commanded. The man had breached hostage houses in cartel zones. He wasn't just respected, he was legend. And now here was Karen, trembling in front of him with a gun she had no idea how to use and a lie unraveling in real time. The officers took her down gently but firmly. They didn't even cuff her in front of Marcus. Out of respect. While they read her rights, she screamed something about me being a menace, about my parties and friends with dogs, and how this whole block is turning into a compound. But it didn't matter anymore. See, what Karen didn't realize was that Marcus wasn't just visiting. He was here for good. He just bought the house 2 doors down. The same house she'd tried to stop him from touring 3 weeks earlier by standing in front of the realtor's car and claiming military types aren't welcome here. Yeah, she said that. In 2025. To a man who'd served 3 tours, trained rescue squads, and saved more lives than she could count on her HOA spreadsheets. I didn't know it then, but Marcus had pulled the trigger on that property the next morning. So when she drew that weapon on us, it wasn't just a noise complaint. It was the last straw in a pattern of harassment she thought would go unpunished. The next few days were a whirlwind. She was released on bail, of course. Tried to downplay the whole thing. Claimed she was just joking. That she thought it was a prop. That we overreacted. But the body cam footage said otherwise. So did the HOA meeting transcript someone leaked anonymously, where Karen bragged about scaring off those weekend warriors and reclaiming the block. That transcript? It was sent straight to the DA. Turns out, this wasn't her first weapon-related stunt. 2 years back, she allegedly waved a taser at a teenager over skateboarding. Charges dismissed that time. Not now. Especially not with Marcus on the witness stand. The courtroom was silent as the footage played. There she was in full HD, waving a loaded handgun across a property line while shouting about keeping the neighborhood pure. The jury didn't blink. The judge? She leaned forward slowly, hands clasped, eyes burning like steel sharpened by years of watching entitled people implode under oath. Karen's defense team tried every excuse in the book. Claimed she was startled. Claimed she thought Marcus was trespassing. Claimed her constitutional rights allowed her to carry in case of disruption. But none of that held weight when they showed the HOA email chain Karen had sent the day before the incident. Subject line: dealing with the noise menace my way. One sentence stood out. If local law won't enforce peace, I will. That was it. The turning point. Marcus testified on day 3. Calm. Composed. Dressed in a gray suit. No medals, no flair, just facts. He walked the jury through every second of the incident, breaking down her stance, her grip, the trajectory risk to nearby children. He never once raised his voice. Never once gloated. She wasn't protecting anything, he said. She was trying to assert dominance. With a weapon. That's not safety. That's intimidation. Karen sat there like a melting statue. Her once commanding posture slumped lower by the hour. Every HOA board member who'd once backed her avoided her gaze. And then came the final blow. Detective Sonia Malik from the Internal Affairs Division took the stand to introduce new evidence. A recovered set of emails Karen had deleted before the trial. In them, she outlined a neighborhood watch initiative with language that strongly resembled militia activity, references to needing armed presence, neutralizing threats, and draining out the renters and their dogs. Sonia didn't need to say the rest. The implication was crystal clear. Karen wasn't scared. She was planning. So when the verdict came guilty on 3 counts, felony brandishing, unlawful use of a firearm, and reckless endangerment, no one was surprised. What shocked us all, though, was her sentencing. 3 years. Incarcerated. No probation. Immediate revocation of all HOA leadership titles. Banned from holding office in any neighborhood association for life. The judge spoke directly to her. Power doesn't come from fear. An order doesn't come from intimidation. You endangered lives for pride. That's not leadership. That's cowardice. Karen sobbed. Not tears of remorse, tears of ego collapse. Her kingdom, her court, her clipboard empire had crumbled. And Marcus? He walked out of that courtroom without fanfare, straight into the sunshine where Thor waited by his truck. In the weeks that followed, the HOA board was dissolved by emergency vote. A community coalition was formed in its place, comprised of veterans, families, renters, and yes, even those Karen once tried to evict. They renamed the park after a fallen officer who'd once lived in the neighborhood. Kids started playing there again. Music returned to patios. Peace wasn't just restored, it was reborn. And the house Karen used to lord over from her porch? It's quiet now. Sold at auction. Rumor has it a special needs teacher and her wife moved in. First thing they did was plant roses. As for Marcus, he built a K-9 training field between our 2 houses. Teaches self-defense and trauma-informed response protocols on the weekends. His first community class? How to disarm conflict without raising a weapon. I help him organize the neighborhood meetups. We laugh about chili. We don't talk about that day unless someone new needs to understand. The thing I remember most isn't the sirens, or the silence after the verdict, or even Karen being driven away in cuffs. It's this. After the sentencing, a boy maybe 12 approached Marcus outside the courthouse. Said he lived on the block. Said he used to be scared to ride his bike past Karen's yard. My mom said you made it safe now, the boy said. Marcus crouched beside him, ruffled his hair and said, "It was always your street, kid. She just forgot." That's what this was always about. Not revenge. Not power. But reminding the loudest voice in the room that fear doesn't win. Do you believe justice was served here? Or did Karen deserve more? Let us know. Your voice matters.